Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Cordon, the place where every cricketer wants to be. I'm your host, Callum Dung, and thank you so much for tuning in again to another episode of the podcast. Joining me on the podcast today is Kartik again. Kartik, thanks so much for coming on, mate. How you going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What an absolute result it was in Perth at Optus Stadium. India bowled out for 150 on the first day, and then Australia bowled out for 104. And the game was pretty much done after that with centuries to Jaiswal and Virat Kohli. The King has returned to form. Australia were bowled out on day four. There was a bit of minor resistance from Travis Head and Mitchell Marsh, Alex Carey, but the top order wickets have been crucial for Australia in this game. Kartik, what did you think of the test match? And did Australia get complacent at all leading into the series?
Yeah, absolutely. You're hitting the nail on its head. Uh, I think the result surprised everyone. How the series started and what the anticipation was. What the words were about, like India practicing behind curtains, not speaking to media, and so on. So all that build-up was there, and India, reserved their performance on field rather than speaking out outside the field. So yeah, surprised everyone. Especially the comeback, how they came back in the first innings. Jasprit Bumrah, outstanding. Just wow. We saw him in the T20 World Cup. The words came out of the mouth were, "Wow, this bowler is good." Same thing in the first innings. Second innings as well. Those crucial initial wickets were just outstanding.
I think this test match was just a combination of India playing extremely well, particularly after the first innings with the bat. But, you know, from the sort of end point of day one, India just bullied this game. And Australia, top order wickets just falling, very, very low scores. I think in the second innings, Australia was four for 20. So, you're not going to win too many test matches with that. And obviously, when you're chasing 534 to win a game, it's not great. A couple of debutants in this game, well, three debutants in this game. We had Nathan McSweeney for Australia, made 10 and 0 in his two knocks. I think moving to Adelaide, a ground that he's played at a lot more in recent time, and then a home test match for him at the Gabba. I think, Australia need to stick with him. He got one that kept a bit low in the second innings, which was very unlucky. Nitish Rana, I thought he bowled superbly in the first innings. His dismissal of Travis Head in that first innings was absolutely spectacular. That was an absolute peach of a delivery. And it's ready. I could not believe how the bat in this game. I know he's probably picked a bit more for his bowling at that number 8 spot, but you know he scored crucial runs, and he was able to make a valuable 40 odd in the first innings, and was able to support Kohli to get to his 100 in the second. So, what did you make of the debutants in this game, Kartik?
Oh, Nitish again, he was a pick of the debutants for me. Those 40 odd runs were very crucial in the first innings, and India managed to get to 150. Otherwise, would have seen India struggling on the same 100 run mark. So he was really good. Bowling, yeah, didn't really explore much as a bowler, but he has got some potential there as well. He smashed, I think, the first runs of his bat. Second innings was a flick to a six. So that was really good. And the way he just came attacked, and then Kohli picked up from there. So that last wicket partnership was really, really important. Those quick runs and get another give a chance to Australian to bat in that second innings. Those first three wickets that changed the game from there. So yeah, we're very confident for a debutant. So surprised, as you said. McSweeney again, looked very nervous, walking in, but I think Khwaja should have taken the strike, with the experience, but he just pushed the youngster, faced just Bumrah in the first over. That was a bit, yeah. I mean, I think Khwaja should have just taken that responsibility. I'll face him. I'll take this over. You take the next one. At least get the nerves settled. But now he pushed McSweeney to the wall, which wasn't that great.
Yeah, I think McSweeney was given two very horrible situations to bat. I think in the second innings, there was only 24 minutes left in the day. So the only thing that the batters could really do was get out in that scenario. Um, Karshik, I just wanted to talk to you about Australia's tactics, particularly in the second innings with the ball. You know, obviously coming off a lot of confidence, bowling out India for 150 in the first innings. But this is probably the first time that I've seen Australia, probably since that Manchester Test match in 2023, where they just look lost for answers. The fact that Marnus Labuschagne is bowling bounces at 125 kilometers an hour, it just screams of we've got no ideas and we're bowling for a declaration. To be perfectly honest, I think Marnus needs to focus on getting some runs with the bat and getting past 10 before he thinks about bowling any bounces in Test matches. But I just think that Pat's entertaining this idea with Marnus bowling. You know, either he bowls leg spin, and I think his leg spin's actually not too bad, or he's he's in the slips. It's as simple as that for me. I couldn't stand watching it. Basically, spoon fed Kohli 100, in my opinion. Kohli certainly deserved 100, and he played fantastically. But yeah, I just hated the tactics from Australia, and I was so frustrated. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. Manas, if you're relying on him as a bowler, then you are in trouble. It may look good on social media, TikTok, and other stuff, that Manas is having that go in BBL and wants to bowl more in test games. But yeah, entertainment factor is there. But look at the reality, he isn't up to the mark. There was a difference in Australia's bowling if you compare first innings and second innings because Mitchell Starc was cooked. You know, he batted a lot in first innings. If your batsman is like if your bowler is batting there for more than I think 25 overs there in the middle, and then you expect him to bowl quick straight after that, he would struggle, and that was shown. So if Mitchell Starc is not picking up those early wickets, which happened in second innings, India went on to score 200 more runs for the first wicket partnership, and that just changed the game from there. So Mitchell Starc, yeah, Hazelwood bowled really well, and India played him very carefully. But Pat Cummins as well was very, very disappointing.
Yeah, I think Hazelwood was superb this test match. Very economical, always challenging the bat. I think he's been an unsung hero of Australian cricket in the last sort of 12 months. I know he bowled a lot of spells against Pakistan that really changed those games in Melbourne and Sydney in particular. Um, but yeah, let's talk about someone who's not getting a massive amount of love at the moment due to the centuries to Jaiswal and Virat Kohli, and that's KL Rahul. I thought he was very watchful, very careful in the first innings, you know, put a price on his wicket. You could debate how that caught behind in the first innings was adjudicated by the third umpire. I still probably think he hit it, but, you know, there was a bit of conjecture around of it. I don't think the process was 100% correct in that decision. I think there needed to be more replays and more analysis before changing that decision. But yeah, 70 odd in the second innings, once again, very watchful, very careful. And I think he complemented Jaswal really well. And it leads to questions. Rohit Sharma is probably going to be available for the second test. He's flown into Perth. He was having practice on day 4 at the lunch break. So, what did you make of the performance of KL Rahul? And do you think he potentially drops down to number 3 for the Adelaide test in place of Patakal and Rohit Sharma goes back to the top of the order? Or does Sharma potentially go at 3?
Uh, yeah, see, KL Rao's career was at stake, before this game. He was dropped from the team, wasn't doing anywhere, wasn't performing. They were in desperate needs, with Rohit Sharma unavailable and Shubman Gill injured. They wanted someone who's performed well in Australia before, which is KL Rahul. They asked him to come and play India A game. He struggled there as well, didn't do much, but they still believed in him and that confidence he was carrying in the test game. Yes, as I said, career at stake. So he wanted to perform. He wanted to show that he's got the caliber there. So he was very desperate to get runs. So good on him, and he complemented really well how Jaspal was going about hitting runs and just on the attacking side, he just complemented that partnership really well. Looking at the structure now, let's say if Rohit Sharma is back and probably for the third test, Shubman Gill is also back. then his position again comes in question. So if I'm a captain or coach, I wouldn't disturb this opening partnership of over 200 runs. Rohit Sharma, experienced player, can bat anywhere down the order. Even if it's coming, number six, he can still score runs. He's done that before in the test games, like he wasn't an opener as a first choice. When he started, he came down the order. So I'm sure, they will talk about it, and wherever the requirement is, probably he will come there.
Yeah, I think KL Rahul in this game kind of played that Pujara type of role, taking a lot of balls, a lot of energy out of the Australian quicks. And obviously India have the blueprint to win here. They've won the last two series here, and Chideshwar Pujara was a massive component of that. I think he faced over 1,300 balls in the 2018-2019 series and was able to score 300s in that game. I know KO Rahul didn't necessarily go on to score 100, but I think his contributions were almost as good as 100. And, the pitch did flatten out. But yeah, I thought he was superb. Let's talk about Jasprit Bumrah before we touch on the two Centurions. No doubt, man of the match performance. That is one of the best opening spells that I've ever seen by an overseas quick on Australian shores in recent memory. Obviously, there's Shamar Joseph, his spell of bowling last summer, which was good, but just pure opening spells of bowling, I haven't seen anything like it. And I feel like there's that genuine fear factor from Australia towards Jasprit Bumrah because he's always challenging the stumps. He can move the ball. He can seam the ball. Like we look at the ball that was the McSweeney dismissal in the first innings, seam back 2.1 degrees. Like that's a massive amount of seam back movement on the first day when the pitch was at its most lively. But yeah, I couldn't, such a talent. I've seen him destroy teams before, but this was just truly demoralizing. Can you touch on your thoughts for Jasprit Bumrah?
Yeah, the kind of confidence and the self-belief that he carries is something, which is unmatched. He knows, he believes that he can change the game with just one ball, and which, yeah, it's something, which you don't see any, like more often now with, let's say, none of the Australian bowlers had that sort of intimidation. So it was like the roles have been turned around. Earlier Indians used to fare, these Australian bowlers, Petley, Mitra, and even Shane Warne, but yeah, things have changed now. So now it's time of Jasprit Bumrah, and the way he led, after being 150 all out was just outstanding. Showing that belief, if they can do it, we can do better. So that sort of belief was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, India certainly could have rolled over after being bowled out for 150, but just the fight from the captain due to Rohit Sharma's absence was absolutely spectacular. And one thing that India do have, and they've had it for the last three tours that they've been here now, is bowlers who can genuinely bowl quick and test the Australians. You've got Mohammad Siraj, you've got Nitish Rana, Nitish Reddy. It looks like Mohammad Shami is going to be available for the Adelaide Test. And if he's fit, I'm playing him with the pink ball. Some people say don't change a winning team, but Shami with the pink ball in Adelaide under lights, I think would be an absolute threat to the Australians, who are extremely fragile at this point in time. And once again, Ashwin and Jadeja didn't play, and those guys can certainly play a role when it comes to Australia because they've got an amazing all-round bowling attack. So it's going to be scary times for the Australians for the rest of the series. Hopefully, it will be competitive in Adelaide for sure, as Australia are 7 wins and 0 losses with the pink ball in Adelaide. So we'll see how we go. Let's touch on the two Centurions for India. Jaiswal, what a story this young man is. Moved out of home at the age of 10 to live in a tent in Mumbai and pursue cricket. This kid is just genuine class. 4 centuries in Test cricket in 12 or 13 Test matches, and 4 times he's gone over that 150 mark. So all 4 of his Test centuries are 150 scores plus, and that's truly outstanding. 2 of those are doubles against England earlier in the year. This kid looks so good. He slashes through point so well, hits the ball through the offside. His drives, his ability to uppercut and flick it over the slip cordon as well. I just loved it. Loved it. As much as
Yeah.
I was frustrated as an Australian, watching this kid bat is just a genuine delight. What are your thoughts on Jaiswal? And what a great response after getting a duck in the first innings.
Yes, absolutely. So this guy has a bit of a background when it comes to the love of sport. He literally worships the sport, and he like cricket is everything for him. Left his home, left his studies, left family and everything, came to a city where he didn't know anyone, like from a small town, and going to Mumbai, just exploring, his chances there. Outstanding, the kind of struggle that he has faced. He was bullied, he was beaten, he was thrashed physically, emotionally. It was very difficult for a child of that age. He had a bit of history where few people plotted against him and showed like a wrong date of birth certificate, and he was disqualified to play like an under 16 tournament. But he met someone in Mumbai who was from his same state, like in UP, and he was able to put that trust in him. He said, "Where do you stay?" Asked him those questions. He said, "I stay in a tent. It's not a tent that we use here for campings. These are just, you use something out of top where the groundsman would stay and then rest during the day." So he would stay in the ground where he played, where he practiced, and just to meet the ends, he would sell like the street foods. He would work there with one of the street food vendors just to earn a little bit. Not even earn, they would say, if you want to stay here, work with us. He didn't really have any, and from there, he's making a test 100 in the first game he's playing in Australia. Just outstanding. These are real life heroes kind of story, which will inspire a lot of not just Indians but people overall. If you want to achieve something, if you still dream about it, you will. So the kind of resilience that he showed is that's what he said in one of the post game interviews. He said, "I've seen a lot of struggle. I've seen a lot of fight. I'm a fighter. So even if I get out for zero, that's all good. My mindset is such that I will fight and I will win over it." So that's what he did exactly in the second innings.
Absolutely. It was a great response after getting zero. And I do think that Australia will look to challenge him around that, fourth, fifth, sixth stump line. I feel like he's very similar to Virat Kohli, likes to field bat on ball earlier in the innings. So if there is a bit more seam movement in the pitch as there was on the first day, it might bring the Australian slipped cordon into play. But yeah, fantastic knot. Let's talk about the king, Virat Kohli. He's back. His third Test century in the last 5 years. So he's had a very lean run of form. Last Test match century he scored was in the West Indies about 18 months ago. But Australia have made a grave mistake here. They've just poked the bear. They've fed to his strengths, as we talked about at the top of the show. Marnus bowling some absolute tripe halfway down the wicket and just got him to 100. What confidence is this going to give Kohli, considering he had a very poor series against New Zealand, and he's had a pretty lean 5 years in Test cricket as well. Um, can he be the leading run scorer of the series? And obviously, he's going to Adelaide next, where he has 3 Test centuries and a 74. So, it's a happy hunting ground for him.
Yeah, Adelaide is a ground that he loves, I think, the most. That he said that it's one of my favorite grounds. Not just the ground, but the place itself, the city itself. He's in love with Adelaide. Uh, yeah, the only difference here is the ping ball. So that ball moves and that ball talks a lot. So he'll have to adapt to it. It'll be challenging. It won't be an easy thing that you're coming uh, from Perth scoring 100 and you'd smash another one here. Things would be different. But knowing his experience and his past history with Adelaide, I'm sure Indian team in general will work harder for it, and they will practice. They will prepare for this one how they prepared for the Perth Test. They're determined to win at least 4-0 and qualify for that World Test Championship, and that's the target. They will do it, and it's all about just keeping the heads down and keep winning till the end of fifth test, rather than focusing on things which don't really matter, like talking to media and things coming out publicly, which India is restricting on at the moment. Kohli, yes, great to be back in form. He had a lot of criticism coming into the series after the first innings. People said it's time, should retire, give a chance to the youngsters. But yeah, he proved them wrong. A very valuable, important partnership towards the end, and that century was equally important as Jaiswal, because due to that, India managed to get that 500 lead. Imagine India went all out for, let's say, and with a lead of around 300, 350, that would still be a chance for Australia to come back. And, in a couple of days, the way Travis Head was playing could have been a different ball game altogether. But yeah, hats off to him coming to his form, and that, yeah, confidence is something which was lacking. And we could see in the New Zealand series that he is struggling on that confidence part. But yeah, good on him scoring those runs. And yeah, Adelaide will be another challenge.
Yeah, you don't want to see your champions of the game do poorly. And like I know
Yeah,
Smith going through a bit of a rough trot at the moment, but I think the cricketing world's wanting him to be able to respond. And we saw Kohli respond after, yeah, not a great dismissal in the first innings, but yeah, you want your champions to come back. And I think it's time that we now talk about the Australians. We talk about the elephant in the room. And for me personally, that's Marnus Labuschagne. I know I've been quite critical of him on the podcast, but I think it's justifiably so. Genuinely has not been seen since Manchester 2023, where he's got Australia out of trouble in that rain-affected Test match. And I know he scored a 90 in New Zealand earlier in the year, but other than that, has not been able to get past 10 much over the last 12 months. It's real Sean Marsh sort of energies. Either it's a big score or it's zero. So I think he will get Adelaide and I think he will get Brisbane. He will get a home test match. But if he does not score runs in the next two test matches, I think he's genuinely in the firing line. Whether Pat and Andrew McDonald really want to do that, we'll find out, because I personally criticise the Australian cricket team for being a bit of a boys' club, and that was sort of summed up when David Warner retired and they didn't pick a specialist opener because they wanted to get Cameron Green in the side and Smith went up at the top. I just don't like that sort of mentality that Australia's had. I think you need to reward the players who are doing really well in domestic cricket. I know there's not really putting their hand up, but you could easily, if he wasn't performing, you could easily move McSweeney to number 3 and then find someone else to come up the top of the order with Uzi. So yeah, and Steve Smith's also had a bit of a quiet trot. I think he's fine. I think he's safe. I think he's got enough runs in the bank. But yeah, Marnus is the one for me that's under pressure. What are your thoughts?
yeah, a lot of people are picking on him, isn't it, at the moment, including the media, former players, fans in particular. But this is not the right time, to shuffle your team. Australia had 1 year to figure out their batting order when David Warner retired. They couldn't find an opener in a year. Don't find it now. Wait till the series ends. Do with what you have got the best. Yeah, you can fire, you can bench Labuschagne. What's next? Who's coming in? Yes, this is not the correct opportunity to give chances to newbies. We saw that with McSweeney. He's not an opener, just being pushed open face, just Jasprit Bumrah in the first over on debut. Things would just keep on happening and things would just fall from here. Do with what you've got the best. Yes, Labuschagne not doing well, but if you look at the last few years, who's done well for Australia? Usman Khawaja, Stephen Smith, Travis Head, and Labuschagne. These are the four batsmen who've done really well in the past few years, and yeah, they just need that confidence back. Ask Labuschagne. Someone need to have a chat with him. Focus on your batting. Go into your zone. Go into your zone where you scored runs. Don't talk crap outside the game. Don't focus on your bowling. Don't do media interviews. Just focus on what you have got. Bat, practice, and do well. That's it. But all that has to come from the leadership, the coaches, the captain. Someone needs to have a chat with him. I'm sure he will bounce back. He is a great batsman.
Yeah, I certainly agree that there's not any obvious candidates who are jumping out saying like, I want a spot, take a spot. McSweeney was probably that guy who had, the form for South Australia. And if anyone was going to move out of the way, if Marnus was to get dropped, I think McSweeney to 3 would be a logical solution. Yeah, as we've seen, McSweeney is not an opener. I think, yeah, we need to give McSweeney a bit of time. I think he can be a player for Australia for the next 10 years. But yeah, I just think that Marnus is, he got dropped first ball by Virat Kohli in the slip. So, I think if that catch gets taken, there's a lot more scrutiny on him, considering Smith got a first ball duck as well. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on the Australians, but let's talk about something positive. And I thought that was the innings of Travis Head. Trav got an absolute ripper in the first innings from Nitish Rana. But yeah, I loved the tempo and the pace of his innings in the second innings. There wasn't much to play for other than pride and get time in the middle. But I think heading towards Adelaide, home ground, he generally bats really well at home. I think it's great signs for Australia. What did you make of Trav's innings?
Yeah, it's all about the mindset, isn't it? And that's what other Australians need to pick on. Just follow him around. He is in a different zone when it comes to batting and having that sort of positive mindset and the attitude. And that's what the likes of Labuschagne and Khwaja and Smith needs. Smith, yes, he's a different league. He doesn't want to follow footsteps of Travis Head. He's in a different league. He know how to bounce back, experienced player. But the others need to just stick around that positivity. Just be around Travis Head. Pick his brains, how he's going about business, and that's all you need when you're struggling. You don't have enough runs, and you want to bounce back. Do it with a positive mindset. If you like too cautious, too careful, no, won't work. So he's shown, attack is the best form of defense, which is good. Keep doing it. And Adelaide, if Australia gets to a total of 300, 350, that's a really good target for any innings for India. So I'm sure Travis Head at home would be lethal.
Yeah, let's look ahead to Adelaide. I don't envisage there'll be any changes in the Australian team despite the nearly 300 run defeat in Perth. But if we look at India, I would suspect if they were going to make any changes, it would be Sharma comes in for Padikkal and Mohammad Shami would come in for either Reddy or Rana. So what are your thoughts about the makeup of the Indian team? Because they're very spoilt for choice. And, Shubman Gill is probably going to be ready for the third test match. But if they go 2-0 up in Adelaide, they might save him for the back end of the series in Melbourne and Sydney.
Yeah, I doubt India will change the winning combination, especially for the bowling part. Yeah, in Melbourne, we may see, the spinners like Ashwin or Jadeja might come in, but in Adelaide, they might stick with the ball, with the bowlers who can swing the ball and do that bit of movement. Harshit Rana did well on a debut, very confident, looked good, no nerves. He was having those regular chats with the Australian batsman. He was enjoying himself, so they will stick with him. Bumrah, no brainer. Siraj did bowl well in the second innings. So I think these will be the three fast bowlers. Nitish Reddy played really well, so they will stick with the same thing. Shami, I doubt they will call him. If they had to, they would have picked him earlier. He was screaming, "I'm fit, I'm doing well. Take me, put me on a game." Nah, no trial games, nothing. So yeah, they won't just pick him up after like a year of injury. No international cricket, and straight away play a test game. Yeah, they might, because they've got all the choices, so they might not take that risk calling Mohammad Shami unless until they're in desperate need. Bumrah gets injured, Siraj gets injured, then you need Shami.
Yeah,
So these are the two. Yeah,
I think if Mohammad Shami plays the Prime Minister's 11 game in
yeah,
Canberra, which is a 2-day game over the weekend,
yeah,
Saturday, Sunday,
yeah,
that might give an indication of what they're thinking. But, most of the time, if you win a test match, your team's not generally changing too much unless,
yeah.
a superstar is due to come back in. Just wanted to ask you one more question before we finish up. We saw Washington Sundar play in this particular game, played the last couple of test matches in Australia, Gabba and Optus Stadium. What did you make of his performance, and do you think that Jadeja could come into consideration for Adelaide, or do you think they'll stick with him?
I think the only reason why he was pushed into the squad was to give that depth in batting, so that if Indian batsmen struggle on top, at least you've got some sort of depth with Nitish Reddy and Washington Sundar coming at the end. But they're forgetting, they've got Ashwin and Jadeja on bench who scored equally good, number of hundreds, and number of wickets that they have is just outstanding. But yeah, that's one thing which might change if they really need to. The only thing they need an off spinner because Australia's got Usman Khawaja, Travis said particularly. They need that off spinner to bowl against him. So we might see Ashwin if you have to replace Washington, but I doubt Jadeja. Yeah, both Jadeja and Ashwin can play in Melbourne. They've done well last year, but in Adelaide, I doubt we might see any changes. But if they have to, might be Ashwin like to like.
So yeah, if I was going to change the spinner, I'd probably put in Jadeja just due to him being a more confident batsman. Like I know
Yeah.
Ashwin has scored a number of Test hundreds, but yeah, I think Jadeja has a very good record against Australia with the bat as well. So that might be something that they want to consider. And yeah, I think he's very capable of batting seven. I don't think Ashwin is as capable of batting seven in Australia, but that's just my personal opinion. But very handy number 8, number 9 for sure. But Kartik, will Australia bounce back in Adelaide or will India make it 2-0?
I think not just bounce back in Adelaide, but the whole series, I would say. So last time it was the same thing. India lost the first game very badly, and then the way they bounced back winning the series. So yeah, that we might definitely. Yeah, I'm certain Australia will bounce back and we'll see a very competitive series. It won't be easy for India, and knowing a lot of careers are at stake at the moment. If Australia lose 4-0, 5-0, we'll see at least 5, 6 people just walking off the field now. It's retirement time.
Yeah, I think Australia will bounce back at Adelaide. Their record in Adelaide with the pink ball has been spectacular. So yeah, I'm expecting them to continue that trend. And last time that India played a pink ball game in Adelaide, they got bowled out for 36. So that's something for the Australians to remember being positive. But Kartik, I just wanted to say big thank you for jumping on the podcast. It was great to get your insight and knowledge of the Indian players.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching In the Cordon at home. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media pages, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.